Okay, we are live. Perfect. All right, welcome everybody to the Young Women in Bio session, inspiring young women to explore careers in STEM. My name is Marissa Molina, and I am the Senior Project Coordinator for Biocom Institute. And I am going to introduce our fantastic speakers today. So please, I'd like to introduce to you Sarah Oden, of Young Women in Bio San Francisco Bay Area Co-Chair and the newly appointed Young Women in Bio National Vice Chair. Through her work with Young Women in Bio, she has cultivated relationships with schools across the Bay Area and built a collaboration with College Track, an organization that works with high school students to give them the tools to break through systemic barriers to earning a bachelor's degree in pursuit of a life of opportunity, choice, and power. Through these collaborations, Young Women in Bio San Francisco Bay Area ensures their students have access to all Young Women in Bio content. I'd also like to introduce Christina Herbert, Young Women in Bio Southern California Chair. Christina is a PhD, is the Young Women in Bio Southern California Chair. During her tenure as chapter chair, she created the Bio Influencer Series, a monthly series for students to explore STEM careers and connect with amazing women in these STEM occupations. A summer series of STEM jewelry workshops she helped bring to fruition was designed to bring STEM concepts to students that might not have considered STEM previously. She also established Young Women in Bio Southern California as a partner of the Girl Scouts of San Diego. So warm welcome to you both, and I will pass it along to you to begin our session today.
Excellent, thank you. Share so much. All right.
Oh, it has the notes on it again.
Don't know why that happens. There you go.
There we go. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. So thank you so much for joining Sarah and I in this session. We're happy to have you here and that you came. We want this session to be interactive, so please interrupt us with questions at any point. And Marissa will be watching the chat on the YWIB app, and so she can interject at any time to ask us questions. And so our goal today is to share the virtual online content and resources that we have available through YWIB Online and YWIB Teachers. And of course, also, we want to make you aware of the eventual live, virtual, and in-person events that we hope to eventually hold in the future. And of course, we want your feedback on how we can create better content and content that will more effectively engage students and provide you guys all with tools you need to implement this content in the classroom. So we've already started to start with our mission. As you can see here, Young Women Bio gives girls today the inspiration and support they need to become tomorrow's leaders in science, technology, engineering, and math. And we really strive to put together these hands-on experiences in STEM, as well as share our passion for all the scientific fields. So we encourage students who identify as female to follow their dreams and introduce them to women across the country who have forged their own path to success. And we try to target under-resourced communities to ensure that all young women have a chance to and feel empowered to pursue a career in STEM. And so that while our mission is to encourage students that identify as female to pursue STEM careers, our events don't exclude young boys or students that identify as male. It's important to highlight really successful and diverse women in STEM for both genders so that this becomes the new normal, right? And so YWIB is part of Women in Bio, and Women in Bio is a nonprofit volunteer organization that promotes diversity and inclusion for women in the life sciences and beyond. And YWIB and WIB have chapters all across the country. So today, Sarah is speaking from YWIB's San Francisco chapter in the Bay Area, and I'm speaking from San Diego on behalf of YWIB Southern California chapter. But we have chapters across the country and even one in Canada. So across California, but also on a national level, through our 14 chapters across the United States and Canada, YWIB partners with leading companies, universities, hospitals, and other organizations to host really engaging educational and really motivational programs for young girls in STEM. So here are our chapter locations. You can see we have currently 14 chapters across the country and one in Canada, and our chapters can be found across the country and in Montreal, and essentially in every location you would find a biotech hub in the US. And so our events, as I mentioned, through these 14 chapters, that YWIB partners with other companies, universities, hospitals, and other organizations to host really engaging educational motivational programs for young women interested in STEM. And in fact, in 1 year, we had more than 70 events across North America, reaching more than 4,500 young women. And we had the support of over 250 volunteers. And I'm sure that these numbers will look even better this year because we've moved online. And so we're really confident that with the online programming that we have been able to reach even more students and more engage more companies and volunteers. Okay, so some of our YWIB initiatives, national initiatives, include our Spring into STEM. And this is actually going on now. So I'd like to encourage you to share the YWIB events page with your students so they can see the various events that our 14 chapters are holding. They're all virtual, so you can attend any of them. And they're all free, of course. And each year, Young Women in Bio likes to celebrate the spring season with its annual Spring into STEM festival. So our chapters host a variety of STEM-focused events, panel discussions, and tours of labs to present to young girls a diverse array of careers in STEM. So this ranges from scientific research, drug development, agricultural biotech, urban forestry, to biotech entrepreneurship. So on the next slide, we have some of the calendar of some of our Spring into STEM events. And if you take a look at our events page, you'll see this and some of the various events we have at our 14 chapters. And unfortunately, our national keynote lecture was just this past weekend, but it was a great event and it featured women working in gene therapy. And but there are a lot more events to come. In Southern California, for example, we have at least 2 more events this spring that are scheduled. We have our, as Marissa mentioned, our bio-influencer session, and I'll talk a bit more about that later to let you know what that's all about, but it's a session in which students will learn about different ways to discover their potential in STEM, and we'll feature panelists that can provide advice and talk to the students about ways to achieve their goals, how to maximize their success with discussions around getting into the school they want, finding a major, or getting involved in college life, finding internships, and etc. So, and then our second event we're planning is entitled Beyond the Kitchen, STEM Can Be So Sweet. So that in that session, we will be baking a cake together, a pound cake, and together on Zoom, and then we'll be discussing both the STEM behind some of the baking steps and also what skills you may use in the kitchen that can be transferred to the lab. So those are our 2 from Southern California. Sarah, did you want to highlight any of the Spring into STEM events that you have planned up in San Francisco?
Absolutely. So we did have one of our events yesterday. It was a suturing workshop in which we sent kits out to young women across the Bay Area and led them, 2 physicians led them through the process of learning how to suture. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But the next event that we have coming up is on May 14th. And this is a career panel that we've put together of women who work at Myocardia, which was recently acquired by BMS. And during this panel, we are going to highlight a really diverse set of women across different functional areas, different backgrounds, and share how they got to where they are today in the pharmaceutical industry. So it should be a really exciting panel.
Thanks. Thanks so much. So on the next slide, then, we highlight some of the different programming that Young Women in Bio puts on. And I have to say that COVID was really a period of great expansion for Young Women in Bio, sort of by necessity. And I think we had to put these all together very quickly, but you know, they were always things that were percolating in the back of our mind as things we wanted to do. But so now we have nationally launched these 5 programs and have YWIB parents in development. And so in particular, I want to highlight that the majority of these initiatives take advantage of online content we are generating. And so the launch of YWIB Online really comes at a time when there's a need to provide young girls who cannot otherwise attend our events and programs with access to online programming in STEM. And this will help with our goal to ignite curiosity and inspire young women to see a future for themselves in STEM. And so we believe that with making this content and these online resources available to a broader audience, we can hopefully reach even more students and hopefully encourage more young women to find their lifelong passion and career in STEM. So today we're going to walk through the YWIB Ambassador program, which is on the left there, YWIB Online, the next one over, and YWIB Teachers and YWIB Showcase. And those are the primary ones we'll talk about, as well as some more local initiatives that we've developed here in California. But before we move on to those programs, Sarah, did you want to talk a little bit about YWIB Clubs?
Yes, so YWIB Clubs is a program that we are currently developing with the goal of launching it in the fall. And the idea here is for young women in bio to create a toolkit similar to what Girls Who Code have that we can share with middle school and high school students so that they can create a club of their own at their school. What they'll need to do is find a teacher to sponsor this club, but really we want the students to run it, to figure out which activities they want to have at their school, if they want to bring in speakers once we are allowed to do things in person again, if they want to interview leaders in STEM. It's really giving them ownership and leadership of something. And through the club, they'll also stay aware of all of the different activities that we have going on at YWIB San Francisco, YWIB Southern California, and then YWIB across the United States. We're on our YWIB national level as well. So we will have more details on that this fall.
Excellent, thanks. So on the next slide, we highlight the Ambassador program. And this Ambassador program is a new initiative that we created in response to the growing number of girls who are looking for the opportunity to champion YWIB in our efforts to create educational and leadership opportunities in STEM for girls, both locally and nationally, and through our YWIB online platform and other online and social media efforts. So this really came as we had girls reaching out wanting to participate with us. And so we developed this program, and through this, we hope that to encourage leadership and creativity in these high school girls that have a passion for STEM, and will help these girls to make a difference in encouraging their peers to potentially also pursue STEM. So we hope to provide them the opportunity to engage and interact with us, and the girls will can collectively move forward our YWIB efforts. So to bring more visibility and awareness to opportunities in STEM to their local communities nationally and online. So this program, girls will apply in order to work side by side with their local YWIB chapter and YWIB volunteers to coordinate STEM programming. So our Southern California YWIB ambassadors have conducted interviews with STEM professionals that we will be highlighting in YWIB Showcase. And I think the San Francisco YWIB ambassadors have been leading the charge to update our YWIB social media efforts to make sure that is as up to date as it possibly can be. So on the next slide, we have where the YWIB website where you can see the applications. And so this program is open to students by application only, and applications are open right now. So if you have any highly motivated students that are really interested in STEM, please ask them to apply by June 1st. And we want them to work with us to ensure the programming we create meets the needs and interests of students just like them. And we want a fresh perspective on what drives interest. And in turn, we will also mentor them and help them to find their path in STEM. So it's been really refreshing having these young women on our organizational meetings to sort of ask about what students want, right? A bunch of women that work in biotech can put together events, but then we ask the students what they want, and it's sometimes different. So it's great to have them working side by side with us.
I do have one question.
Okay.
Is there a specific age for the YWIB clubs?
So with the YWIB clubs, when we roll it out in the fall, we'll be focusing mostly on high school students, so anywhere from 9th through 12th grade. And then once we've established our high school programs, we're going to extend into middle school.
And Sarah, I think on the next slide, we switch
Yes.
over to the Alumni Club, right?
Absolutely, yes. So part of our ambassador program is really, as Christina was saying, is to encourage these young women to pursue careers in STEM. And 2020 was our inaugural year for this. We had 22 ambassadors across the country working with our 13 chapters. And as we move forward into 2021, we're going to have up to 28 ambassadors working across 14 chapters. We recently added a new chapter in Connecticut to Women in Bio. And we want to ensure that once they've graduated from the YWIB Ambassador program, that they're able to continue to stay engaged with us. We don't want them to fall off from what we're doing. We want to make sure that they continue to have support as they progress through high school and college. So we are establishing to launch in the summer of 2021, a YWIB Ambassador alumni group that will allow for ongoing engagement with the YWIB ambassadors and YWIB. What we're going to do through this is they'll have the opportunity to continue to engage with our YWIB leadership, our YWIB volunteers and partner organizations. They'll have the opportunity to work with the incoming ambassadors and help them transition into their role as the new class of YWIB ambassadors. We want to make content that's specific for them, whether that's resume building, how to get through your freshman year in college, how to locate internships, scholarships, what to do when you're a junior, senior in college and starting to think about your next steps, whether it's graduate school or going into industry or academia, whatever it is that they want to do. How can we support them so that they continue to be successful? And so we will be kicking this off this year to support the ambassadors, the 22 ambassadors that we currently have. And as it continues to grow, we view this as a growing network of young women who can encourage, support, and work together as they progress through their careers. The way that YWIB is set up, we support young girls from elementary school through their sophomore year in college, at which point they transition into Women in Bio and become part of our Women in Bio parent organization. So again, we'll figure out a way to make sure that that is as smooth as possible so that they can continue to work with us over the years. So before we move on to YWIB Online, are there any questions on anything we've shared so far?
We'll give people a second in case there's any questions. See how fast people can type. The program sounds fantastic, and wish I would have known about this when I graduated from
I wish
undergraduate.
Excellent. All right, so we'll continue on, and as Christina said, feel free to type in questions as they come up. So in the
we had one question, sorry.
Yeah.
It takes a little time, I think, for people
to
type
absolutely.
in chat.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Is the ambassador program for any grade level?
So the ambassador program is for high school students. So anybody who in 2021 will be a freshman or through a senior in high school. So 9th through 12th grade. Next. Okay, so as Christina mentioned, the age of COVID forced us to go online, which ended up being an amazing thing for our organization and for the young women that we support. Typically in pre-COVID times, we would do all of our events live. We would go to pharmaceutical biotech companies around the state to do workshops, tours, have these young women interview and get to know female scientists, or we would go to academic centers, or we would go to them. Oftentimes we'll go to the schools or go to sites where we can engage with the students one-on-one. With COVID, we obviously couldn't do that, so we created YWIB Online. And YWIB Online is a resource on YouTube where we post all of our events that we hold virtually. We have curated content called YWIB Showcase that I'll talk about in just a moment, where we interview experts in STEM, leaders in STEM. And this way we can reach a wider audience of students. We have enduring events that will be available for as long as YouTube lets us. And it really allows girls all over the country to see what's happening in other parts of the country. So it's not just accessing resources from California. Now you're able to access resources from what are Seattle chapters or RTP, Research Triangle Park chapters, or even Metro New York. What are they doing? Another initiative that we started in 2020 was YWIB Teachers. And the idea with YWIB Teachers is to provide resources and tools that teachers can use to supplement their STEM content and, sorry, there's a lot of noise outside my window, allow teachers to have resources to help them educate their students in STEM. So we started this content with WindWard Academy, and WindWard Academy is providing free access to our resources at over 300 schools across the United States and 50,000 students from underprivileged communities. So we're creating all the videos that we post on YWIB Online, we make available specifically for teachers to use with their students. And along with them, we provide resources such as discussion questions or other guides and learning objectives to help the teacher work their students through these programmings. So I'm going to pass it back over to Christina to talk about one of the resources that we have available.
Sure. So this was one of the events that we did for YWIB Online. And so the same content that we have on YWIB Online, we wind up putting into YWIB Teachers, but then we also partner that with, besides just the content, we also have learning objectives. Here you can see which next generation science standards are met with this program. And then also we have some follow-up questions that can be asked along with the answers. And so what you can see here is an ad that we had for a series of events that we called Genomes, Germs, and Jewelry that we hosted last summer. So this was sort of our initial foray into online content that our chapter did. And so we combined STEM-inspired jewelry making workshops with science and career pathway discussions, and we had 3 events. So the first event featured students from a STEM outreach club in the San Diego area, and they led the girls that registered for the event in making necklaces. And so what they had to do is they would extract DNA from saliva, from their own saliva, and then it could be put into a little vial that they could wear around their neck. And the speaker that we featured in that session was Kirsty Bourne, who is a sales professional at the time for a company that provides sequencing services. In the second event, then we had Beata Mirzwa, a postdoctoral fellow at the Ludwig Cancer Research Institute at UCSD, and she led students in creating this beaded jewelry necklace that you see there. And so through creating a little model of DNA, they can see how DNA is created. Each of those beads sort of represents a component of DNA, whether it's the base pairs or the phosphates or the sugars. Each bead sort of corresponded to some part of DNA. And then for that event, we had Ashley Van Zeeland from Illumina speak about biomedical breakthroughs that can be achieved with DNA sequencing. It's a great event. And finally, in the third event, students made these little bacteriophage earrings. And so out of beads also, and that was also led by Beata, who is just super creative. And our speaker for that event was Stephanie Strathday, who is a professor here at UCSD. And she documented her amazing struggle to rescue her husband from death due to infection with an antibiotic-resistant bacterial strain. And they treated him using bacteriophage. So bacteriophage kind of look like those little beaded things like lunar landing things, but they are essentially viruses that will infect bacteria and kill the bacteria. So it was a crazy journey she went through using sort of her scientific background to save her husband and test out this this strategy for treating bacterial infections that hadn't really been used very much in the US to date. And now she is director of the, I believe she's director of the Phage Therapy Institute here at UCSD. And so the videos of all three of these events can be seen on our YWIB YouTube channel. And students registered for these events from all over the country. We sent them the resources they need, the beads or the falcon tubes and the necklaces and the vials and everything to the students that registered. And, you know, they were really great events. And so, but here on the side, you can see, like I said, that these are the next gen teaching standards for the first event that we had where they extracted DNA. So you can see that they are learning that all cells contain genetic information. They're learning how to extract it. And these are sort of the objectives that we targeted with that event. But, and then the next event, we had similar sorts of resources that teachers would be able to access on YWIB Teachers. So that's content that's sort of beyond what we can just access on YWIB Online. And then the next slide, I guess, is Sarah's event.
Yeah, so this is a career panel that we held in San Francisco in March. And here what we did is we brought, and this was a collaboration between San Francisco and Southern California. We do try to do these collaborations on occasion to really increase our impact and make sure that students all across the state have access to our content. And what we did is we brought together 5 women from across the state to share their stories of how they got to where they are. We really try to target a diverse group of women. So we wanted to ensure that this panel had women of color, women from various backgrounds, women that have taken very different paths to get to where they are. Because as we know, most of us do not take linear paths to get to where we are today. What we thought we would be doing at 16 is probably not what we're doing right now. And so these women are able to speak to that and some of the barriers that they faced, how they forged their paths forward, and what it's like to be a female in STEM. And then we do post these on YWIB Online. And in addition, for YWIB Teachers, we would then not only give you the access to the YouTube clip, but we would also provide learning objectives and discussion questions to really get the young women thinking about what our speakers are sharing.
Okay, and then it's back to me. So we've talked now primarily about the national initiatives that YWIB has been driving. But I wanted to tell you a little bit more about some of our local initiatives that we have been trying to hold here in Southern California. So in addition to these national efforts, we have also started our own initiatives in Southern California. We started this program called the Bio-Influencer Series. And so YWIB, I told you about, this is an organization for adult women, and the YWIB program benefits from a peer mentoring program in which we meet monthly in cohorts to discuss career issues or anything sort of relevant to us. And we wanted our teens to have a similar sort of program. So thus became the Bio-Influencer Series. And so this is a monthly digital STEM workshop series, and it focuses on professional development. And this was meant to include the 3 C's. Sort of clarifying which job fits them, connecting with like-minded people, meaning both their peers and women in YWIB that can guide them, and then learning to compete in the marketplace. And so they have a chance to work, a chance to network and with industry leaders, and to identify potential mentors. So each month we guide students to discover something new about themselves and a possible STEM career. And so we hope to continue to foster their growth through these virtual sessions with guests that are coming from higher education, academia, and industry, and all genders are welcome to these events, as you can see on the flyer there. As I said, we are a group that tries to highlight successful female women in STEM, but we do not, as everyone benefits from that, but we are not exclusive. So the videos of these sessions actually from this career development sessions were not released, as we felt sort of strongly at the start of last year that what we wanted is to have a cohort of students within California that can see each other over a period of time and build a relationship and consistently, and that our California teens really deserved a space that is safe for them, their own, where they can express themselves and engage with mentors, and they don't have to be, conscientious that something's going to be online and videotaped. So we've intentionally not released these videotapes, but I'm going to show you, we did tape them just so that we would have clips that people could watch back at a later time in case they missed an event. And so we're going to show that soon, but the bio influencer series then is really a curriculum that's designed to be repeated, and new cohorts will come in of teens every year. And each year we'll take a new cohort through this plan where they can discover sort of their passion in STEM, their influence in STEM, what does the future of STEM look like? How does one innovate in STEM? Our last session was on the arts in STEM, which was really a terrific session. That one we may actually release the video of because I think it was quite a great panel discussion. And then finally, next month, we have the Discover Your Potential series in May. So on the clip here, as I said, we haven't been releasing the videos of these events, although we did record them, like I said, to provide them to registrants who wanted to watch them back later. So I want to give you a little bit of a flavor for these events by showing you a quick clip. And in theory, you're the first people not registered for this event that are seeing one of these videos. But of course, we've had 6 so far. And so we've had 6 sessions, and it was tough to pick a short clip, but I really loved this first event where students were led through an activity by one of our volunteers, Debbie, who's a professional woman in biotech, and she helped them to create a why statement. So why do they do what they do, and what impact are they hoping to have with those actions? And Debbie goes on to lead them in an exercise where they were partnered up they were put in pairs in breakout rooms to tell a story that had some sort of impact on them. And then their partner could tell them back sort of what struck them about their story, like what was it that was impactful in that story, so that they could start to understand, what is it about me that makes me do what I do. So we can play the clip now.
So we're going to discover our passion so that you can be a bio influencer. This way you can have a job that's fulfilling, that you enjoy, that you have a clear sense of purpose, and you get the results you want. And your why is fully developed already by your mid to late teens. That you've already had enough experience that you can recognize situations of those that will help you, lead you and inspire you, and those that will not. Okay, so what we want to be able to do to complete that is make a why statement. It's actually a very simple, actionable, and focused statement on how you positively affect other people. Okay, so we're going to get started. I'm going to teach you Simon's 5-step process for developing this why statement. It's never going to be perfect. It's something that's going to be a living document, and you'll change, as you grow in your career and you become an influencer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
All right, let me go back.
I need to go back and do my why statement.
It's gonna give me the right,
Yep.
wrong screen again. So let me just switch it real quick. Nope. There we go.
I always leave each one of those sessions a bit inspired to rethink my career.
Great. And we also have YWIB Showcase, Careers in STEM, which we talked about previously. And this is, again, something that we share with our teachers if they're so interested. And this is in a series where we interview leaders in STEM across all different areas of STEM, not just biology. And so in San Francisco, we actually had this really amazing opportunity to interview Dr. Marcia McNutt. And she is the president of the National Academy of Sciences. Unbelievable interview, really was inspired by her. And I'm going to very briefly share the last piece of advice that she gave to young women as they consider where to go next.
I think my one piece of advice is don't ever opt out by taking the easy road. Make sure that when you're in high school or in college, that you purposely seek out challenging courses and opportunities that are available to you along the way. And let me give some examples. Let's suppose your high school has a couple options.
Since we're running short on time, I'll leave it at that. But oops. All right, sorry. The sharing gave me an error. The idea with these is to really showcase a diverse set of women doing very diverse things. We recently in San Francisco had an interview with a woman who started as an equine physical therapist. Now she's moved into human physical therapy. She has her PhD in physical therapy from UCSF. And so we really do try to show a range of women doing various different things who've had great success throughout their careers. And these are short, they'll go anywhere from 4 to 10 minutes. We have longer versions as well if people are so interested. And the last thing I wanted to share about what we do on a local level is we try to do hands-on activities as often as possible. We want to keep these young women engaged. We want to encourage them to use their hands and explore and try new things. And last night, so this is a slide that I don't think Christina has seen yet because we just did this last night. We had the opportunity to have 2 physicians lead 13 young women through a suturing workshop. And so what we did is we shipped out these suturing kits that we bought on Amazon to the young women who expressed interest. They do not come with scalpels, so they are safe. And the girls had the opportunity to take a shot at suturing, and the 2 physicians had dual cameras so that we could see their face as well as see the suturing kit. And the young women had a great time getting to play around with these. Now it was only an hour and a half, so we will definitely need to have a do it again is what we've already agreed to. But it was amazing, and it was really fun to see these young women engaged online when for so long now we've had to do everything virtually, and it's just been talking to them rather than engaging with them. And by allowing them to do something hands-on, we've increased their engagement, increased their interest in what it is that we do. We're also planning later on this summer to do a DNA extraction workshop. Again, this will be virtual. We're keeping everything in the Bay Area, and I imagine all of California virtual until further notice, maybe the fall, maybe the summer or the spring semester. But as soon as we can go back in person, we'll be bringing things like this back into the schools and for students to really inspire them. So that is our presentation for today. If you want to connect with us, we highly encourage you follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, at any of these channels, pages. I'm not Instagram as savvy as our ambassadors are, but we're very active on Instagram with YWIB Ambassadors, doing takeovers. Our YWIB Women in Bio Instagram page posts all of our events. SF and SoCal, we post all of our events so that people know what's going on. And then, as we mentioned, everything that we do virtually will make its way onto YouTube. And we want to thank our sponsors. So that is the end of our presentation today. Did we get any additional questions?
We'll give people a moment to see if they have any questions. And thank you so much for the fantastic presentation. I have a question. So if somebody stay connected, you provided those, what's the best way for someone to get access to some of the resources that you mentioned today? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so probably the best way to get access to our resources is I'm going to put in the chat box, will our audience get our webpage?
I'm not sure, but you can try it. Otherwise, I can pop it into Hoover.
I'm going to pop in a couple links. So we
Okay,
have,
perfect.
for all of our events, this link that I just put in is our event list on our national page. If you're interested in the YWIB Ambassador program, I'm going to put in the link for where you can register, and for that, and you're welcome to email us for more information.
Perfect. We do have another question, and that question is, how do we join the YWIB Teachers?
So that's a great question. I think the easiest way to do that would be to email us, and thinking of what email is the best email.
I guess I was thinking of the Southern California or Northern California one, or the.
Yeah, I think if we give you the Southern California and San Francisco email addresses, that would be the easiest. So I'm going to pull that up. Do you want to drop yours in?
Sure, I have to find ours.
Yeah, but we have every chapter has an email address, and if you email San Francisco at womeninbio.org, which I just dropped in, we will be able to connect you with YWIB Teachers. The other thing that we can do is, if you're interested in just getting note, and I'm putting the Southern California one in as well.
I got it also.
Okay. If you're interested in learning more about our events directly from us and not having to go to the website, definitely reach out to these emails and we'll add you to our mailing lists. So one way that the SF Bay Area, and by the way, for SF Bay Area, we cover everything from Sacramento down to San Jose. We go out to Danville. We might go out further. I don't know the East Bay very well, and that's generally the landscape we cover. And we have partnerships with a lot of schools, so we have a lot of partnerships with science teachers. We email them directly, or we email College Track, the Bay Area Biotech Education Committee, and many other organizations, just to keep people informed.
And from Southern California, so we are called Southern California, so we cover San Diego and LA right now. We are based in San Diego, but we definitely are trying to expand to Los Angeles and are advertising our events as well as we can up there. And eventually, I think we will have a 15th chapter for Los Angeles, but we're not quite there yet. But right now we're trying to fold the Los Angeles people into the Southern California chapter.
Awesome. I think we'll take one more set of questions if anybody else has questions. Otherwise, we're almost done. All right. Well, I haven't seen anything else come through yet, but thank you so much for coming and sharing all these fantastic resources that you have for young women and really anybody to participate in. So helpful, so impactful. And I know that for me as a young person, it was programs like this that inspired me to pursue a degree in science. So it's very, very exciting. We have some thank yous to you.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, we would love to hear from people, because I mean, the more feedback we get on what teachers need and want, I think the more we can develop programming that will meet the needs of teachers. I feel like, we can try our best to reach out to the students, but I sometimes think if you reach one teacher, you reach many students. So we're really eager to work with teachers also.
And we love to hear what you need, what it is that you want, and we can curate content. We have a lot of contacts at biotech companies and academic organizations across the state. So we're happy to work with you to develop content that will be useful for your students.
Awesome. We have a thank you, very interested in getting involved, someone who worked at the Ludwig Institute in a former life. So
that's where Beata's at. Yeah, she's my vice chair.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. So Awesome. Well, thank you again for all of you listening. If you don't mind giving a rating on the session, we love feedback always to know how it went. And we thank you so much, ladies. And if anyone needs anything, you can always reach out to Biocom Institute and we can connect you.
We have volunteers in Biocom also from Southern California. So we love working with you guys.
Awesome. I love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.